The alien woman started weeping when I held her. I'm human, not an animal, Part 1. The auction blocked Kong Do-yan was not looking for trouble. He was just a simple salvage pilot trying to make some money. His small ship, the Quiet Star, was full of old ship parts he had collected from dead vessels floating in space. He needed to sell them. That was why he came to Varga-7. Varga-7 was a space station in the middle of nowhere. No government controlled it. No laws protected anyone here. It was a place where criminals, traitors, and desperate people all came together. Do-yan did not like it. But the buyers here paid good money and asked no questions. He walked through the dirty metal corridors of the station. The air smelled bad. It was a mix of fuel, sweat, and something rotten. Strange aliens of all shapes and sizes passed by him. Some looked at him with curiosity. Humans were still rare in this part of the galaxy. His species had only been traveling among the stars for about 200 years. To most aliens, humans were just another young race with nothing special about them. Do-yan found a trader who agreed to look at his cargo, but the man wanted to negotiate in his warehouse on the lower levels. Do-yan did not want to go deeper into the station, but he needed the money. His ship needed repairs. His food supplies were running low, so he followed. The lower levels were worse than the upper ones. The lights flickered. The walls were covered with rust and strange stains. Do-yan kept his hand near the small pistol on his belt. He was not a fighter, but he was not stupid either. Then he heard it. A voice, loud and excited, coming from behind a large metal door. It sounded like someone giving a speech. Do-yan's trader contact had disappeared somewhere, so he walked toward the sound. He pushed the door open slightly and looked inside. His blood went cold. It was an auction, but they were not selling goods or ships. They were selling people. A large room stretched before him. Hundreds of aliens sat in seats arranged like a theater. At the front was a raised platform with bright lights. And on that platform stood living beings in chains. Their wrists were bound with glowing energy cuffs. Their eyes were empty. Their bodies were thin and weak. Slaves. This was a slave auction. Do-yan felt sick. He wanted to turn around and leave. This was not his business. He was just one man with an old ship and almost no money. What could he do against something like this? But then they brought out the next one. She was tall and thin. Her skin was a pale silver-blue color that seemed to glow softly even under the harsh lights. Her hair was long and white, falling past her shoulders like water. Her eyes were large and beautiful, the color of moons. But those eyes were dead. There was no life in them. No hope. A Lunari. Do-yan had heard of them. They were empaths. They could feel the emotions of others. Some people said they could even absorb those emotions, take them into themselves. This made them valuable to certain kinds of buyers. Cruel people who wanted someone to dump their anger and pain into, someone who could not fight back. The auctioneer was a fat alien with 4 arms and a smile that made Do-yan want to punch him. Lot 47, the auctioneer announced. A female Lunari in excellent condition. Already trained? Will not resist. Perfect for personal use or resale. Starting bid is 5,000 credits. Hands went up. Numbers climbed higher. Do-yan stood frozen at the back of the room, watching. The Lunar woman did not react. She just stood there, staring at nothing. Like she had already accepted whatever terrible fate was coming for her. Like she had given up completely. Something broke inside Do-yan. He did not know why. He did not understand it. But suddenly, he was walking forward. Suddenly, he was raising his hand. Suddenly, he was shouting a number that was almost everything he had saved over 5 years of work. 15,000 credits. The room went silent. Everyone turned to look at him. A human. A nobody from a nothing species. Bidding on a Lunari, the auctioneers for eyes blinked in surprise. 15,000 from the human in the back? Do I hear 16? No one moved. The price was too high. No one wanted to waste that much money on a single slave, no matter how rare, sold to the human for 15,000 credits. Do-yan walked to the front of the room. His legs felt weak. His heart was beating too fast. What had he just done? He had spent almost everything. He could barely afford fuel now. How would he eat? How would he survive? But when he looked at the woman on the platform, he knew he could not have done anything else. He climbed onto the stage. The auctioneer handed him a small control device for her restraints. Other buyers watched with confused expressions. Some laughed quietly. They probably thought he was just another cruel human with dark desires. Doyan ignored them. He walked toward the lunary woman slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. She saw him coming. Her body tensed. She did not look at him, but he could see her hands shaking. She was waiting for pain, waiting for cruelty, waiting for the nightmare to continue. Doyan stopped in front of her. He did not grab her. He did not pull her chains. He just stood there. "Can you walk?" he asked quietly. She did not answer. "I am not going to hurt you," he said. "I just need to know if you can walk to my ship." Still nothing. Her eyes stayed fixed on the floor. Doyan sighed softly. "Okay, that is fine. Take your time. I will wait." He stepped back and gave her space. The crowd was getting restless. Security guards looked impatient, but Doyan did not move. Finally, very slowly, the woman took one step, then another. Her legs were weak, but she could move. Doyan walked beside her, matching her slow pace. He did not touch her. He did not rush her. He just stayed close, like a shield between her and the watching crowd. They left the auction hall together. They walked through the dirty corridors. They reached the docking bay where the quiet star waited. Only when they were inside his ship, only when the doors closed behind them, did Doyan finally speak again. "You are safe now," he said. "I do not know if you believe me. I do not expect you to trust me. But I promise you, I am not like them. I am human. Not an animal." He reached for her wrist cuffs and used the control device to unlock them. The glowing restraints fell to the floor with a heavy sound. The woman stared at her free hands. Then she looked at Doyan with those moonlight eyes. For the first time, there was something in them. Not hope, not yet, but maybe confusion. Maybe a tiny question. Who was this human? And why had he saved her? Doyan did not have answers. Not even for himself. He just knew that he could not have left her there. "Rest if you want," he said gently. "There is a room in the back." "I will not bother you," turned and walked toward the cockpit. Behind him, he heard nothing. No footsteps. No voice. Just silence. But she was free now. Whatever happened next, at least she was free. The quiet star's engines hummed to life. The ship lifted off from Vargas 7 and flew into the darkness of space. And somewhere in the cargo bay, a broken woman sat alone, rubbing her wrists where the chains used to be, and wondered if this was real or just another cruel dream. The alien woman started weeping when I held her. "I'm human. Not an animal, Part 2, The Long Silence 3. Days passed on the quiet star. 3daysofsilence.com. Doyan had given the Lunari woman the small storage room at the back of his ship. He had cleaned it as best as he could and put a mattress on the floor with clean blankets. It was not much, but it was better than a cage. The woman did not come out. Doyan did not force her. Every morning and every evening, he would walk to her door and leave food and water outside. Sometimes he would knock gently and say something simple like, "Food is here," or "Let me know if you need anything." He never opened the door. He never demanded that she respond. She never did. On the fourth day, Doyan noticed that the food was disappearing. Not all of it, but some. She was eating. That was good. That meant she wanted to live. He continued his routine. He would fly the ship, check the systems, do small repairs, and cook simple meals. The quiet star was old, and there was always something that needed fixing. It kept him busy. It kept his mind away from the strange situation he had created for himself. He was now almost broke. The 15,000 credits he had spent on saving her was everything he had. He could not afford fuel for long trips. He could not afford good food. He ate rice and dried vegetables while he gave her the better portions. Sometimes, Late at night, he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. What was his plan? Where would they go? How would he take care of both of them? But then he remembered her eyes. Those empty, hopeless eyes on that auction stage, and he knew he would do it again. Every time. On the 7th day, Doyon was sitting in the cockpit, looking at the stars through the window. Space was beautiful at times like this. Quiet and peaceful. Back on Earth, in the mountains of his home province, he used to look at the night sky and dream of traveling among those distant lights. His father had shared that dream but never got the chance to see it come true. He died before humans built their first starship. A soft sound made Doyon turn around. She was there. Standing at the entrance to the cockpit, her silver-blue skin looked pale, and her white hair was messy. But she was there. Outside her room, looking at him, Doyon stayed very still. He did not want to scare her. "Hello," he said quietly. She did not answer. Her large eyes moved around the cockpit, taking in the controls, the screens, the stars outside the window. Then they returned to him. Doyon pointed to the co-pilot seat next to him. "You can sit if you want. The view is nice from here." For a long moment, she did not move. Then, very slowly, she walked to the seat and sat down. She moved like someone who expected to be hit at any moment. Every motion was careful and afraid. Doyon turned back to the window. He did not stare at her. He did not ask questions. He just sat there, sharing the silence. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Doyon was not counting. Then he started to talk. Not to her exactly. More like talking to himself while she happened to be there. "I grew up in the mountains," he said. "In a country called Korea, on Earth. It was beautiful there. Green trees, clean rivers, fresh air. My grandmother lived with us. She made the best food. Every autumn, she would make kimchi. Do you know what kimchi is? It is a kind of spicy fermented vegetable. It sounds strange, but it tastes amazing." He smiled at the memory. "My father wanted to see the stars. He would take me outside at night and point at the sky and tell me about the planets and galaxies far away. He said that one day humans would travel there. He believed it with his whole heart." Doyon's smile faded a little. "He died before that happened. A sickness took him when I was 15. He never got to see us reach the stars. So I decided to do it for him. I saved money, learned to fly, bought this old ship, and went out into space. I have been traveling for 10 years now." He looked at the stars outside. "Sometimes I wonder if he can see me somehow. If he knows that I made it, that I am living his dream." Silence again. But it felt different now. Less heavy. Less cold. Doyon glanced at the woman beside him. She was staring at the stars too. Her expression had not changed much, but there was something different in her eyes. A tiny spark. The smallest sign of life. "What is your name?" Doyon asked softly. "You do not have to tell me if you do not want to. I am just curious."
Nothing.
He expected that. But then, after almost a full minute, she spoke. Her voice was rough and weak, like she had forgotten how to use it. Doyon felt his heart jump. It was just a name. One simple word. But it meant everything. "Yuna," he repeated gently. "That is a nice name." "I am Doyon. Kang Doyon." She did not respond. But she also did not leave. She stayed in that seat, looking at the stars existing in the same space as him. It was enough. For now, it was enough. Over the next few days, things changed slowly. Yuna started coming out of her room more often. She would sit in the cockpit while Doyon worked. She would watch him cook. She would stand at the observation window for hours, staring at the endless space outside. Doyon kept talking to her, not asking questions, not demanding answers, just sharing stories, memories, random thoughts. He told her about his grandmother's cooking, about the time he crashed his first ship and had to walk 3 days to find help, about the strange planets he had visited and the funny aliens he had met. Yuna never responded, but she listened. He could tell she was listening. And slowly, very slowly, she stopped flinching when he walked past her. She stopped tensing when he spoke. She started to relax, just a little bit. One night, Dojan was working on a broken console in the engine room. He was trying to reconnect some wires when his tool slipped. The sharp edge cut his palm, and blood began to flow. "Ah, damn it," he muttered, grabbing a cloth to press against the wound. When he looked up, Yuna was standing in the doorway. She was holding a small medical kit that she must have found somewhere on the ship. Doyan stared at her in surprise. She walked toward him slowly, her eyes fixed on his bleeding hand. Then she knelt beside him and opened the kit. Her fingers, long and silver blue, moved carefully as she took out bandages and cleaning solution. "You do not have to," Doyan started to say, but she was already working. She cleaned his wound gently, applied medicine, and wrapped the bandage around his palm. Her touch was soft and careful, like she was handling something precious. When she finished, she looked up at him. Their eyes met, and in that moment Doyan saw something he had not seen before. A question. A confusion. A desperate need to understand why. Her eyes seemed to ask, "Why are you kind to me?" Doyan did not have the words to explain, so he just smiled and said, "Thank you, Yuna." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded once, stood up, and walked away. But she had touched him. She had helped him. She had taken one tiny step out of her shell. Doyan looked at his bandaged hand and felt hope bloom in his chest. Maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe that not everyone wanted to hurt her. Maybe she was starting to heal. The alien woman started weeping when I held her. I'm human, not an animal. Part 3. The first touch weeks passed on the quiet star. The silence between Dojan and Yuna slowly filled with small things. A word here, a glance there. Tiny moments that meant nothing and everything at the same time. Yuna started helping around the ship. She would organize supplies, clean surfaces, check systems. She moved quietly like a ghost, but she was there. She was present. She was trying. One day while Doyan was struggling to fix a power relay, Yuna appeared beside him. She looked at the mess of wires in his hands, and then, without saying anything, took them from him. Her fingers moved quickly and skillfully. In less than 5 minutes, she had fixed what he had been failing to repair for 2 hours. Doyan stared at her with wide eyes. "How did you know how to do that?" Yuna did not look at him. Her voice was still soft and rough, but it came easier now. "I was a healer. On a medical ship. Before." That one word held so much pain. Doyan nodded slowly. "You were a healer. And then, they took you." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she answered, "They attacked our ship. Killed most of the crew. Took the rest of us. I do not know how long they kept me. Time became strange." Her hand stopped moving. She was staring at nothing, lost in memories that Doyan could not see but could imagine. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "That should never have happened to you." She looked at him then. Her moonlight eyes were searching his face, trying to understand something. "Why did you save me?" she asked. "You spent everything. You are poor now because of me. Why would you do that for a stranger?" Doyan thought about the question. He had asked himself the same thing many times. "I do not know," he admitted honestly. "When I saw you on that stage, something inside me just broke. I could not leave you there. I could not walk away. It felt wrong. Like leaving would make me less human. But you've gained nothing." "Gained something," Doyan said. "I gained the knowledge that I did the right thing. Sometimes that is enough." Yuna stared at him for a long time. She did not seem to believe him, but she also did not argue. They docked at a small frontier colony to resupply. Doyan sold some spare parts he had been saving and bought basic food and fuel. It was not much, but it would keep them going for another month. While on the station, they picked up a distress signal. A salvage pilot named Bay Tayson was trapped in a debris field nearby. His ship was damaged, and he was running out of air. Doyan moved to help immediately. Yuna insisted on coming with him. "You do not have to," Doyan said. "It might be dangerous." "I know," she replied, "but 2 hands are better than 1. and I am tired of hiding. So they went together. The rescue was difficult, but successful. They pulled Tayson's ship free and brought the old man to the colony's medical station. He was grumpy and suspicious, especially when he saw Yuna. He kept looking at her with narrow eyes, like he was trying to figure something out. After the doctor said Tayson would be fine, he pulled Do-yeon aside in the hallway. "I need to ask you something," Tayson said, his voice low. "That Lunari woman? She is with you. Why?" Do-yeon felt his body tense. "What do you mean?" "You know what I mean? Lunari are valuable in the slave markets. Empaths, emotional sponges. People buy them for, well, you know." Tayson's eyes were sharp. "Is that why you have her?" Anger flashed through Do-yeon, hot and sudden. "No, I saved her from one of those markets. I freed her." Tayson raised an eyebrow. "Freed her? Just like that? No expectations? No payment? Just like that?" The old man studied him for a long moment. Then he shook his head slowly. "Humans have a reputation out here, you know. Young species, chaotic, dangerous sometimes, emotional. Most aliens do not trust us much, I know. They will look at you with that Lunari and think the worst. They will assume you are like the others. The cruel ones." Do-yeon's jaw tightened. Then they would be wrong. Tayson looked at him differently now. Something like respect appeared in his old eyes. "Maybe they would be. Maybe you are one of the good ones." He patted Do-yeon's shoulder roughly and walked away. When Do-yeon returned to the quiet star, Yuna was waiting at the airlock. She was standing very still, her eyes fixed on him as he approached. She had heard everything. Do-yeon realized this immediately. Lunari were empaths. They could feel emotions, especially strong ones. And his conversation with Tayson had been full of strong emotions. "Yuna," he started to say, but she stepped forward and took his hand. Do-yeon froze. This was the first time she had ever touched him by choice. Her fingers were cool against his skin. They were trembling slightly. For a moment, nothing happened. They just stood there, connected by that simple touch. Then Yuna began to cry. Tears rolled down her silver blue cheeks. Her body shook. Soft sounds escaped her throat, sounds of pain and relief and something else that Do-yeon could not name. He did not move. He did not pull away. He just let her hold his hand and feel whatever she needed to feel, because that was what was happening. As an empath, Yuna was opening herself to him. She was letting his emotions flow into her, and what she found there was overwhelming her. "Why?" she whispered through her tears. "Why do you care what happens to me? Why is there so much kindness in you? So much warmth?" Do-yeon felt his own eyes getting wet. "Because you are a person, and every person deserves someone who gives a damn about them." Yuna shook her head. "I felt hundreds of beings before. Their emotions, their hearts, most of them were full of greed, anger, lust, cruelty. Even the ones who seemed nice on the outside had darkness hidden inside. But you..." She looked up at him with wonder. "You are exactly what you appear to be. There is no hidden cruelty, no secret evil, just this. Just warmth." "I am not perfect," Do-yeon said softly. "I have anger. I have fear. I have selfishness sometimes. But you try. You try to be good. You try to do what is right. Even when it costs you everything." More tears fell from her eyes. "I forgot that beings like you existed. I thought they were only in stories." She collapsed against him then. Her arms wrapped around him, and she buried her face in his chest. Her body shook with sobs that she had been holding inside for years. Do-yeon held her gently. He wrapped his arms around her thin shoulders and let her cry. He did not speak. He did not try to fix anything. He just held her and let her release all that pain. They stood like that for a long time. The ship hummed quietly around them. The stars watched through the windows. When Yuna finally stopped crying, she did not pull away immediately. She stayed in his arms, breathing slowly, feeling safe for the first time in longer than she could remember. "Thank you," she whispered against his chest. "Thank you for being real." Do-yeon rested his chin on top of her head. Thank you for trusting me. She looked up at him with those moonlight eyes, now red from crying, but alive with something new. Something like hope. I think, she said slowly, I am starting to believe you. Ajun smiled. It was a small smile, gentle and warm. Take your time, he said. I am not going anywhere. And he meant it. With every part of his heart, he meant it. The alien woman started weeping when I held her. I'm human, not an animal. Part 4. The reckoning months passed. The quiet star continued its journey through the galaxy, carrying two people who had become more than just pilot and passenger. They were partners now, friends, maybe something more, though neither of them said it out loud. Why UNA had changed. The hollow look in her eyes was gone. She smiled sometimes, small smiles that made Doyan's heart feel warm. She talked more often, sharing stories about her homeworld, her training as a healer, the friend she had lost. The pain was still there, but it no longer controlled her. She used her empathic abilities to help Dayan now. When they met new traders or buyers, she could sense who was honest and who was dangerous. This saved them from bad deals and kept them safe. They made a good team. One day, while traveling through a quiet sector of space, a large ship appeared on their sensors. It was a military cruiser, sleek and powerful. The design was Lunari. Doyan felt his stomach tighten. Yuna, you need to see this. She came to the cockpit and looked at the screen. Her face went pale. That is a Lunari warship, she said. They have found me. Before Doyan could respond, a voice came through the communication channel. It was calm and commanding. It's an identified vessel. This is Commander Hannah of the Lunari Defense Force. You have one of our citizens aboard. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Do not resist. Doyan looked at Yuna. What do we do? She was quiet for a moment. Then she took a deep breath. Let them come. Running will only make things worse. So Doyan powered down the engines and waited. The Lunari soldiers were tall and beautiful, with the same silver-blue skin as Yuna. They moved with discipline and grace. Their leader, Commander Hannah, was a woman with sharp eyes and a stern expression. She looked at Doyan like he was an insect she might step on. You are the human who has our citizen, she said. It was not a question. My name is Kong Doyan. Yuna's here freely. I did not kidnap her. Hannah's eyes narrowed. Freely? A Lunari, traveling with a human? Forgive me if I find that hard to believe. Then ask her yourself. Yuna stepped forward. She stood straight and tall, meeting Hannah's gaze without fear. Commander, she said, this man saved my life. He bought my freedom at a slave market on Varga 7. He spent everything he had. He has never hurt me. He has never forced me to do anything. I am with him because I choose to be. Hannah stared at her for a long moment. Then she turned back to Doyan. Is this true? Yes. Why would you do such a thing? You are human. Your species has no connection to us. You gained nothing from saving her. Doyan met her eyes. I did not need to gain anything. She was a person in pain. That was enough reason. The Lunari soldiers shifted uncomfortably. They had expected something different. A criminal, slaver. Not this quiet, calm man with sad eyes and work-worn hands. Hannah studied him carefully. Yuna could feel her commander using empathic abilities to read Doyan's emotions. She watched Hannah's expression change slowly, the suspicion fading into something like confusion. He speaks the truth, Hannah said finally. I sense no deception in him. Yuna nodded. I told you. Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke again, this time with less hostility. We have been hunting the slavers who attacked your medical ship. We have tracked their operation back to Varga 7. We are planning an assault to destroy them and free their captives. Yuna's eyes widened. An assault? Yes, but we need information about the station. Its layout. Its defenses. Hannah looked at Doyan. You have been there. You know the lower levels, where the auctions happen? Doyan understood immediately. You want my help? I am asking for it, not demanding. He thought about it. Varga 7 was dangerous. Going back there could get him killed. But he also remembered the auction. The rows of broken people on that stage. The fear in Yuna's eyes when he first saw her. "I will help," he said. "But I have one condition." Hannah raised an eyebrow. "What condition?" "No unnecessary killing. The guards, the workers, even the auctioneers, they should face justice. Real justice. Not slaughter." Hannah looked at him with surprise. "You would show mercy to those who enslaved you. To those who enslaved Yuna?" "Yes." "Why?" Doyen met her gaze. "Because that is what makes us different from them. If we kill without mercy, we become no better than the slavers. Justice is not the same as revenge." Silence filled the room. The Lunari soldiers looked at each other with uncertain expressions. This was not how they expected a human to talk. Hannah finally nodded slowly. "Very well. We will capture, not kill, when possible. You have my word." The assault on Varga 7 happened 3 days. Later, Doyan guided the Lunari soldiers through the lower levels of the station. He knew the paths, the hidden doors, the security checkpoints. His knowledge saved lives and time. Yuna stayed with the medical team, ready to help the freed captives. But she watched through the communication link as Doyan moved through the dangerous corridors with the soldiers. He was not a fighter. He carried only a small pistol and mostly stayed behind the trained warriors. But his courage was clear. He did not hesitate. He did not run. He faced the darkness of that terrible place again because it was the right thing to do. They reached the main auction hall, the same room where Doyon had bought Yuna months ago. Now it was full of Lunari soldiers, breaking chains and freeing prisoners. Dozens of captives from many different species sat on the floor, their eyes empty, their bodies weak. Just like Yuna had been, Doyan moved among them. He cut restraints with careful hands. He spoke softly, telling them they were safe now. He treated each one as a person, not a victim. One young alien, barely more than a child, shrank away from the Lunare soldiers in fear. Their armor and weapons scared her. But when Doyan knelt in front of her, she looked at him with wide eyes. "It is okay," he said gently. "No one is going to hurt you anymore." She stared at him. She had never seen a human before. But something in his voice, something in his eyes, made her trust him. She reached out and took his hand. Hannah watched this from across the room. She felt the emotions flowing through the hall, the fear slowly turning to hope, the despair lifting. And at the center of it all was this strange human. This salvage pilot who had no reason to care but cared anyway. After the assault, when the slavers were captured and the captives were being evacuated, Hannah approached Doyan. "I owe you an apology," she said. Doyan looked at her with tired eyes. "For what?" "For judging you based on your species. For assuming the worst." She bowed her head slightly. "You have shown me that humans are capable of great compassion. Perhaps we have misjudged your people." Doyan shook his head. "Humans are complicated. Some of us are cruel. Some of us are kind. We are not that different from anyone else." Anna smiled slightly. "Perhaps that is true. But you, Kong Doyan, are one of the good ones." She turned and walked away. Leaving Doyan standing in the ruins of the slave market he had helped destroy, Yuna found him there a few minutes later. She ran to him and wrapped her arms around him tightly. "You did it," she whispered. "You helped save them. All of them." Doyan held her close. He was exhausted. His body ached. But in his heart there was peace. "We did it together," he said. And in that moment, surrounded by the broken chains and freed souls, they both knew that something had changed. Not just for them, but for the galaxy's view of humanity. One person at a time. That was how you changed the world. The alien woman started weeping when I held her. "I'm human. Not an animal, Part 5. Homesick." Months had passed since the assault on Varga 7. The news had spread across the galaxy like fire. Stories told of the Lunari Liberation Force that destroyed one of the largest slave operations in neutral space. But the stories also spoke of something else. Human. A nobody salvage pilot who had helped free hundreds of captives, Some did not believe it at first. Humans were young, unimportant, just another small species among thousands. But the survivors of Vargas 7 told the same story again and again. The human had been kind. The human had been gentle. The human had treated them like people, not like cargo. Slowly, quietly. The galaxy's opinion of humanity began to shift. Kong Do-yan did not care about any of that. He did not want to be famous. He did not want to be a symbol. He just wanted peace, and for the first time in his life, he had found it. He and Yuna had settled on a small colony world called New Haven. It was a quiet place with green fields, clean rivers, and a small community of farmers and workers from many different species. The planet had 2 suns that painted the sky in beautiful colors. Every morning and evening, Do-yan had sold the quiet star. The old ship had served him well. But it was time for a new chapter. With the money, he bought a small house near a lake. It reminded him of the mountains back on Earth. He started doing repair work for the local farmers. Machines, vehicles, anything that needed fixing. It was simple work, but he enjoyed it. Yuna had returned to her calling as a healer. The colony had a small medical center, and they welcomed her with open arms. Her empathic abilities made her especially good at helping people with trauma and mental pain. She understood suffering in ways that most healers could not. They built a life together, simple and quiet, full of small joys and ordinary moments. One evening, as the twin suns began to set, Do-yan sat on the porch of their house. He was staring at the sky, watching the colors change from blue to orange to purple. His mind was somewhere far away, lost in thoughts he could not name. Yuna came out and sat beside him. She was wearing a simple dress, and her white hair was tied back. She looked healthy now, strong, alive. "You were thinking too loudly," she said with a small smile. "I can feel it from inside the house." Do-yan laughed softly. "Sorry, old habit." She reached over and took his hand. The touch was natural now, comfortable. Something they did without thinking. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. He was quiet for a moment. "The past, I guess. The choices I made. Whether they were right. Do you regret saving me?" Do-yan turned to look at her. Her moonlight eyes were calm, but he could see the serious question behind them. "Not for a second," he said firmly. "Not one single second." She smiled at that. A real smile, warm and bright. "Good, because I have something to tell you." Do-yan raised an eyebrow. "What?" Yuna looked out at the sunset. "I used to think humans were chaotic, unpredictable, dangerous. That is what everyone in the galaxy had believed about your species. Young, emotional, violent, not to be trusted." "We can be all of those things," Do-yan admitted. "Yes, but you can also be this." She squeezed his hand. "Kind, patient, brave in ways that do not require violence. You held me when I was broken, and you never once treated me as anything less than a person. You never took advantage. You never demanded payment. You just cared." She turned to face him, and there were tears in her eyes. But these were not tears of sadness. They were something else. "You showed me that I was still worth saving," she said, her voice trembling. "That I was still me. I had forgotten who I was. I had forgotten that I mattered. You reminded me." Do-yan felt his own eyes getting wet. "Yuna, let me finish." She took a breath. "I have felt the emotions of hundreds of beings. Thousands, maybe. Most of them were selfish, cruel, empty. Even the ones who seemed good had darkness hiding inside them. But you are exactly what you appear to be. No masks, no secrets. Just a good man trying to do good things." She reached up and touched his face with her free hand. "I love you, Kong Do-yan. Not because you saved me. Not because I feel grateful. I love you because you are the most genuine being I have ever met. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Do-yan could not speak. His throat was tight, and his heart was beating too fast. All he could do was lean forward and press his forehead against hers. "I love you too," he whispered. "I have for a long time. I was just afraid to say it." Yuna laughed softly. You afraid? The man who walked into a slave auction and bought a prisoner with his life savings. That was different. That was just doing what was right. This feels bigger somehow. She pulled back and looked at him with shining eyes. It is bigger. It is everything. They sat together in silence for a while, watching the suns disappear below the horizon. The stars began to appear, one by one, filling the darkening sky. In the distance, children were playing in the fields. Some of them were young aliens who had been freed from Vargas 7. They had been adopted by families in the colony. Given new homes and new chances at life, their laughter echoed across the evening air. Yuna watched them with a soft smile. This is what humanity could bring to the galaxy, she said quietly. Not conquest. Not domination. Not war. Just this kindness, community, a place where everyone is treated as a person. Dojane followed her gaze. He saw a young girl, one of the freed captives, running through the grass with a kite. She was laughing, her face full of pure joy. She had been so broken when they found her on Vargas 7. Now she was just a child again. Maybe, he said. One person at a time. Yuna leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder. That is how all great changes happen, she said. Not with grand speeches or massive armies. Just ordinary people choosing to do the right thing. Again and again. Until the world is different. Doyan wrapped his arm around her. When did you become so wise? He asked. I learned from someone, she replied. They sat together as the night grew darker and the stars grew brighter. The twin moons rose over the lake, casting silver light across the water. It looked like a painting, a scene from a dream. Doyan thought about his father, about the man who had dreamed of stars but never reached them. He wondered if his father was watching somehow, from wherever good souls went after death. Look, father, he thought. I made it. I found the stars. And I found something else too. Something you always told me was the most important thing in the universe. He looked at Yuna, beautiful and peaceful in the moonlight. I found love. She looked up at him, sensing his emotions through their connection. What are you thinking about? She asked. He said simply. She smiled and nestled closer to him. Me too. And there on that quiet colony world, under the light of 2 moons and 1,000,000 stars, they were finally at peace. Not because they had escaped danger. Not because they had won some great victory, but because they had found each other, a human and a Lunari, a salvage pilot and a healer, 2 broken people who had helped each other become whole again. The galaxy was vast and cold and often cruel. But in that small house by the lake, there was warmth. There was hope. There was love. And that was enough. That was everything. The end.